Educators Lead, Episode 4.
I try to empower them. I get down in the trenches with them, so when I give ideas, they'll know that I'm willing to do it alongside of them.
Welcome to Educators Lead, where we interview leaders in education to offer inspiration and practical advice to help launch educators into the next level of leadership. I'm your host, Jay Willis, and I want to thank you for subscribing to our show.
This is John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and you're listening to Educators Lead. Let's join my friend Jay Willis and get ready to take your leadership to the next level.
Hello, Edu Leaders. Jay Willis here, and I'm excited to introduce our featured guest today, Todd Nesloney. Todd, are you ready to launch?
I am ready, Jay.
Awesome. Todd Nesloney is the principal lead learner of Webb Elementary in Navasota, Texas. He's the 2015 BAMMY Award recipient for elementary principal and the 2014 award winner for Classroom Teacher of the Year, the TCEA Teacher of the Year for 2014, a White House Champion of Change, a National School Board Association 20 to Watch, and Center for Digital Education Top 40 Innovators in Education. Todd is also the author of children's book Spruce and Lucy and the co-author of the award-winning book Flipping 2.0. He's also the co-host of the popular education podcast series Edu All-Stars and Kids Deserve It. Whew, that was a mouthful. So that's just I was going to say brief introduction, but not really. But Todd, tell us a little bit about yourself and about your career path.
Yeah, so I have been in education for, 9 years now. This is my 9th year. I taught in the classroom for 7 years, 2 years in 4th grade, 5 years in 5th grade. And then I moved into administration last year, became the principal over here in Navasota, and this is my 2nd year in administration.
Awesome. So at what point along the journey did you decide to move into school leadership? When did you make that decision?
Well, when I was teaching, as soon as I got into teaching, the school district that I was with signed a deal with Lamar University to do a master's program. And myself and 2 other members on my team were like, let's do it together, because it was all online. So I said, great, because I need to get my master's now, because the kind of learner I am, I'm not going to go back to school in 10 years. So if I don't get it now, I'm not going to get it. I don't want to be a principal. I don't want to be a leader of any kind of school. I just want to be a teacher forever. But let me go ahead and get my master's. Plus, so I could say I was the first person in my family with a master's. So I got my master's right away, had no interest or want to use it at all. Then about, 2, maybe 3 years ago, I got started being connected on social media, specifically Twitter, and just started getting a lot of notoriety for some of the things that I was doing and the things I was sharing. And then Navasota, the school district that I'm with now, reached out to me on social media and said, hey, I see you're doing all this project-based learning and flipped class stuff. And I said, sure am. And they said, would you like to work at a school that everybody was doing that? And I said, not really. I said, I'm good with where I'm at. I like what I'm doing. I like my kids. And they said, well, what about if you got to lead a school that was doing that? And I said, it sounds intriguing, but I really am happy where I'm at in the classroom. And they said, well, what if you got to hire your entire staff at that school? And I thought, oh, okay, I can take some consideration into that, because as an educator, if you're ever considering leadership, that's like one of those dream build your own school moments. And so I thought about it, prayed about it, and then I had a meeting set up with somebody from their central administration just to kind of sit so I could ask questions. And I just kind of sat down with them and said, look, here's the person I am. I need to know that y'all are going to be okay with this. I need to know about how much you are okay with innovation, open Wi-Fi, all these things that I'm really passionate about. I kind of need to see where they stood to see if it was something I even wanted to get involved with. And their ideals just completely aligned with mine. And one of my goals as an administrator, as a principal, as a lead learner, is to kind of break down the stereotypes of what that role has been in the past. And teach lessons in the classroom, do after-school tutoring, work with kids, have morning, lunch, and afternoon duty, only spend an hour a day in your office, all these kind of things. And they said, you know what, that's exactly what we want as well. That's what we're looking for. So we're all on the same page. And I said, great, then let's do this. And so I went in and interviewed for the position, got the job. Last year I was at Navasota Intermediate. So if anybody Googles me or tries to look up, they're going to say, why is he at Intermediate and now at Webb? Well, last year at Intermediate, 4th and 5th grade campus, I took it over, hired the whole staff from scratch. We had a great year, and then the district decided that, Webb Elementary, which was at that time just a pre-K 3 with about 900 and something students, they said, that one, we need to do some fixing because we've got a pre-K 3 campus, we've got a 4-5 campus, and the southern part of our county, about 15 miles south, we have a pre-K 5 campus. Well, it's hard to do some aligned things when you have those campuses like that. And so I said, so one of the things that they came up with was not my idea, is they said, well, you know what if we kind of did some realignment and we took these schools and made them all pre-K 5 campuses, and we kind of shifted some numbers to make Webb a little bit smaller and Intermediate, which is now Bruley Elementary, a little bit bigger. And I said, great. And they said, well, how would you feel about moving over to Webb? You've done a good job this year. We want you to take your team and combine it with that team over there. And I said, oh my goodness, but it's quite a vote of confidence. So let's jump into it and do it. So this year I'm at Webb. We've got about 750 kiddos, about 90% free and reduced lunch, about 50% Hispanic, 35% African American, and the rest are white. And we've just been rocking and rolling with all those pre-K through 5th graders this year, trying to help our district out and get us out of some of the holes that we've dug ourselves in as a district.
Wow, that's awesome. So
it was a really long answer to your question.
No, but that's awesome. So tell me real quick, just to kind of backtrack a little bit. So the journey to becoming an educator, so it was really not something that you started off necessarily wanting to do, but it was kind of the point where you were allowed to build exactly what you wanted from scratch that kind of inspired you to look a little bit deeper into that?
Well, when I started getting connected on social media, one of the things that happened from that too is I started presenting and kind of traveling and speaking about some things. Mm-hmm. And I never considered that I would ever want to work with adults. 5th grade was kind of like my limit. I loved 5th grade and below. And so I had a terrible stage fright fear, didn't like speaking in front of adults, never thought that would be my thing. And I still have stage fright when I get up and speak. But it just became something that I kind of built another passion for and really fell in love with helping educators eliminate excuses, find creative avenues, and really do what's best for kids. And as I did that more and more, leadership became something that I considered myself being more adept to do. And so when the idea came up for me to take a leadership role, everything just kind of, it's definitely a God thing because everything definitely just fell into place exactly with what I would have been looking for. And it has not been an easy road by any means. But my personality is very much of one where I'm always up for a challenge. I like being stressed. And where I was as a 5th grade teacher, I don't say this braggartly, but I really knew what I was doing, and I had it down to an art, and I had amazing scores on tests, and I had great strides that we made with kids, but I was getting a little bit bored with it because I was like, I'd done it for 5 years, and I had it down to an art. And so I think I was kind of ready for a change as well, without me even realizing I was ready for a change.
Yeah. It's interesting. When you mentioned just still being nervous speaking in front of people, I think that's kind of something that a lot of us go through. I know that, I've done quite a bit of speaking in front of groups of up to, 1,000 people. But every time it's still, you kind of go through this, well, who am I to say things? And, what if I have kind of some hecklers or whatever that you go through,
Well, and it's funny because people will come up to me afterwards and they're like, oh my gosh, you're a great speaker, or how do you do that? And I'm like, I almost throw up every time before I go on stage. It's like my wife can tell you that I'm like calling her in the morning like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? Why am I up here speaking? I'm not the best person to be speaking on this topic, or oh my gosh, the crowd's so huge, or what if they hate me, or nobody's going to show up to my session. I mean, that is always, and it's funny because as I talk to some of these other people who present all the time, they all feel the same way.
Yeah.
And so that's been kind of a relief to me to know that I'm not the only one dealing with all of this anxiety, because my personality is an introverted extrovert.
Yeah.
So when I get on stage, I'm really dynamic and I'm really full of energy, just like I am in my classroom. But then like when I go home, I sit on the couch, I watch TV, I'm very chill. I don't do a lot of exciting stuff. I'm really boring at home. And so it's like I have my two different personalities, my presenting personality and then my outside of that personality.
Yeah. That's great. I think one of the CEO for the company I used to work for, he would kind of express it. He would say, it's not about whether or not you have butterflies, because most people have butterflies. It's just that you need to teach them to fly in formation. And I just thought that was a good.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's great. So tell me, just along the journey to becoming a school administrator, what would you say was the most difficult part? You kind of alluded to it a little bit, how it was kind of a difficult path, a difficult journey. So tell us about, if you could maybe just kind of take us to one of the most difficult points in that path, and just share that story with us.
So, I mean, for me, looking at my journey, I think the hardest thing for me was not truly understanding all that a school leader does. One thing that I tell everybody now is that if I were to ever go back into the classroom full time, I would have so much more respect for my administrators, because there are so many things that go on behind the scenes that I can't talk to my staff about, or that I shouldn't, or that I have to handle on my own, or bullets that I have to take that my teachers don't even know I'm taking for them. Things like that it's just like, wow, I never realized that some of my administrators did these things, and I truly did not value or respect them enough to give them what they deserved for some of the work that they do. And so that was one thing that was really a big eye-opener for me. As far as along the path into getting into administration, my path was, it's very unique, I know, with the way things kind of happened and how it kind of all fell together and just kind of worked out. But for me, it was just, I consistently put myself in uncomfortable situations. And so whether that be the lesson I'm going to teach, the activity we're going to try, I tell my staff now, and I was like this as a teacher, I truly believe that it is better to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission. And so I'm consistently going to push boundaries and push expectations and push ideas of how things can work. And I'm very much of a tell me I can't do it, and you better watch out because I will show you that I can. And so taking that from and kind of using that as my mantra as a teacher, I think really helped prepare me for administration too, because now I do that in administration. And yeah, there's a lot of times where there's extreme failure, but I take it and I learn from it. I always tell my teachers, you can fail with trying something crazy, that's fine. What I'm not going to be okay with is when you try something crazy and it doesn't work, and so you do it again and again and again, because then you are not really learning anything. You're just making the same mistakes over and over again.
Right.
And so I guess the hardest path for me was just me probably believing in myself and believing that I was capable. And I still have a lot of self-doubt now, and I think that's just part of my personality as well. But just continually understanding that I do have some skill set that does have value. And that's kind of why I'm really passionate about bringing that in with my kids and my staff, and building that school culture is really important to me, and working with Angela Myers and her You Matter movement, and making sure everybody understands that they have a special, unique genius and gift to offer everyone around them. That was probably the hardest thing for me to and still can be, that I do have gifts that are needed and necessary, and I'm in this position I'm in for a reason.
Right. Yeah, I think it's natural to have those doubts come up, especially when you're in a leadership position. And I think that courage, you probably heard this, but it's not the absence of fear. It's acting and doing what's right in spite of it. And so, I think the difference is that a lot of people allow that fear to immobilize them. And really the great leaders are the ones that kind of see the fear, acknowledge it, but they still act and do what's right anyway.
Right. I agree.
So what would you say has been your best moment as a school administrator? Like, once you've reached that point where you're kind of the head of the school, what's been your best moment so far?
Well, for me, thinking about the whole last year and a half, to me, the most exciting thing is to take some of the visions and dreams that I've had for leading a school and watch them play out. I've now been a part of 2 schools that we've got to redesign it from the ground up. And when you get to have that opportunity to really build a school and work with your entire team to build it together, there's so many cool things that happen in relationships that are formed, that has been the best for me, of really saying, you know what, because last year everybody was new to the district. This year it was a combination, and just taking that and say, you know what, this is our school. Let's build it together. What are our dreams? What are our goals? What are our wishes for kids? And let's take out all of those excuses of why we can't do it. And let's sit together as a team and say, let's do this crazy idea. And let's bring in these guests. And let's reach out to these people, even though we're probably never going to get them to say yes. Let's try it. And let's take kids and do these outrageous activities with them. And let's take our own teams and ideas, and let's try to break out what we've done before and really eliminate all limits. And to see some of my teachers take those leaps and to see them try things and be terrified but still do it. And then for me to work with such a large amount of students, instead of 100 students or 75 that I was used to as a fifth grade teacher, now I have 750 kids that I'm working with, and to get to build those relationships with kids and eat lunch with them and work with them and do after school tutoring or build with Legos or really get to invest in some really damaged students and to watch things begin to change and walls begin to break down, that's the exciting moments for me.
Would there be one specific kind of, I don't know if it's too cheesy to say magic moment, or just like a really impactful moment since you've become a school administrator that you could share with us and just take us to that specific story?
Yeah. So, I went to the Ron Clark Academy in Atlanta, Georgia about 3 years ago. And when I was there, I met Ron, met Kim Bearden, the co-founder, and just had a really great conversation with them, did some blogging that they helped advertise, whatever. And kind of kept in contact very minimally through social media. Saw them at a conference the summer before I got my administrative position, and just kind of reconnected with them. And then Kim Bearden came out with her book called Crash Course. And I got a copy of it and read it this summer on an airplane in one sitting, cried my eyes out through half the book. It was just such a powerful, easy to read book that I was like, you know what, this would be a great first book for our staff to read together this school year. So I worked with Kim and her publisher and bought a copy for all 84 members of my staff. And I told them, I said, you know what? I said, I really want to read this book together. The chapters are short and easy. I said, we'll just get together 15 minutes a week, every week, talk about the chapter at hand. And then on November the 16th, I'd like to do a crash course school day where we take a lot of the ideas from this book and transform our school and our lessons and show what we've learned as like our culminating activity as educators. And so as we began to read it and share and stuff, about the first or second weekend, I'd been doing a lot of communicating with Kim, the author, about us reading the book and us using it as our book study and our crash course day. And she was incredible enough that she worked with me, and she surprised my staff on that 16th of November and showed up at the school.
Oh, wow.
Spent the entire day rotating through classrooms. She talked to them all after school for about 45 minutes to an hour. And it was one of those, I told the staff about a week before that she was going to come. I broke the news to them, and we had people crying and yelling. I mean, it was one of those like Oprah moment kind of things when I told them, because we'd all just been so emotionally impacted by this book.
Yeah.
That I didn't know really how out of the box or outrageous they were going to be with their ideas. But when we showed up that Monday morning, I felt like I walked into Disney World. Every hallway was transformed completely. They all had themes and ideas and teachers. The lessons that day, we had pickle autopsies. We had a cooking class. They were building. It was amazing, the ideas they came up with to show what they learned from the book. And, I most of the days teared up, and so did Kim. And she said, I wrote this book in hopes that somebody would get something out of it. She said to walk onto a campus and see every single staff member, from PE to art to skills to special ed to everybody doing these lessons. She said it was just emotionally moving. And for me to watch a staff of 80-something members come together like that and really push themselves and step outside their comfort zones and go all out for kids, that was probably the highlight of my administrative career so far, was to see every single person doing that. It was a powerful, powerful moment. And that was only a couple weeks ago. And the repercussions from that, I'm still feeling waves and seeing teachers. Like I walked in, I think it was yesterday, and I have 2 hallways that transformed into a winter theme because they saw the excitement change in the kids. They watched discipline disappear when the lessons were that outrageous and creative that the repercussions are going to be felt for long to come. But it was just one of those really cool moments where I was just so proud of everybody involved.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. You know, it sounds like just from this discussion, a lot of what the difference between those schools or those classrooms that are really alive and innovative in a lot of ways, and I'm sure it applies to business and a lot of other things as well, is just on some level being willing to fail and being willing to just like try something new that you may just fall flat on your face, but just being willing to do it and see if it works.
Well, I think a lot of that comes down completely to the leadership as well.
Yeah.
Because if you're on a campus where your leader does not encourage that, or you feel like you're being micromanaged, or they come down on you on everything, you're not going to have that innovation. And so we try to be, first of all, present all the time in every room, every day. We try to make ourselves seen and known so that it never feels like a gotcha system. It's completely we're here to help. I want to do what's best for kids first and foremost. Number one, what is best for kids? And so if that means we have to completely change everything and I have to say that my idea was terrible, then I'm going to say my idea was terrible. Let's change it. Let's do something different. Because I always tell my teachers, we have elementary kids. We do not have the time to waste to be too prideful in our decisions not to say something's not working.
Yeah.
If it's not working, we need to fix it.
Yeah. No, that's great. And it just kind of to go along with that and some things that you said earlier in the conversation, just with the team that I work with here, I kind of remind them that it's completely okay to fail and make mistakes. We're just going to make new ones each time.
Yep. And I consistently talk about the mistakes that I make as well. I mean, I write a weekly blog post for my staff where we have updates and stuff, but I always start it with a personal story of my own. And I'm consistently sharing stuff as a leader too, where I feel insecure, where I've made a mistake, things that I need to apologize for. I've apologized in front of my staff before for things. And I just try to make it known that I'm in this fight with y'all. I'm not above you.
Yeah, and I would imagine that transparency tends to endear people to you. Have you found that?
I definitely think that, I mean, when I look at a campus like this where I did not know 60% of the teachers until coming in this year, and some of them had apprehension about things and the changes and the mixing, and to see what we've done in a couple months, I really believe that that's a 100% reflection of the power of building relationships and valuing everybody's voice and making sure they all know that they play an important part. That definitely, we would not be where we are right now if not for that.
Yeah. Boy, that's great. So, all right, to kind of transition, we're going to go through some quick rapid fire questions if you're ready for those.
Yeah.
All right, so what would you say is the best leadership advice you've ever received?
Oh, God, you said rapid fire. Now I'm blank. Probably the best, I think about 2 principals that I talk to almost every day, and that's Ben Gilpin and Brad Gustafson. Ben's a principal in Michigan. Brad's a principal in Minnesota. I talk to them every single day, and they just give me countless good advice. But for me, the best advice is to value those around you and ask them for help. Don't ever be afraid not to ask for help and to say, I don't know, and see what the people around you, what their ideas are, and build something together.
And that kind of goes along with the transparency and not being too proud to ask for help or admit you don't know something. Yeah, that's great. So what would you say is your biggest strength as a school administrator?
100% building relationships and making sure my staff knows how important they are. Same with my kids as well.
What 1 or 2 books would you most recommend to other school leaders?
Anything by Ron Clark. The End of Molasses Classes and Move Your Bus. Those are excellent. Love Crash Course by Kim Bearden. Digital Leadership by Eric Schinniger is excellent, as well as The Innovator's Mindset by George Couros is a good one. And of course, my book that comes out in the middle of next year, that one's going to be a great one too.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Now, can you release the title of that yet or no?
I'm co-authoring it with a principal out of California named Adam Welcome.
Okay.
And it's called Kids Deserve It. We've got a whole ecosystem already built. We've got a handle at Kids Deserve It. Facebook is facebook.com/Kids Deserve It. We've got a Remind group. We do a bunch of stuff with that. We've got a website, kidsdeserveit.com, and we recently signed with Dave Burgess Publishing. which is another great book. Dave Burgess's Teach Like a Pirate.
Yeah.
But we recently signed with them, so the Kids Deserve It book will be coming out hopefully in April or May.
Awesome. So what would you say, what's an app or maybe a software kind of tool that you would recommend for other school leaders?
Two apps that I can't live without. One of them is Remind, used to be known as Remind 101. That is what I use to send out messages to parents, to staff, to my team. Great way to pre-schedule a text to go out. It's how I let them know about fire drills, lockdowns, special events, Jeans Days. Love, love, love Remind. But the number one app that I cannot do without is Voxer. Voxer is a walkie-talkie type app. You can send quick voice messages or text or images, whatever. But every single member on my staff has it because that is the easiest way. We don't ever carry walkie-talkies around. We all have our cell phones. Everybody has a cell phone. We use that app to communicate with each other through voice, so nothing gets misinterpreted through text. And it saves our conversations. You can have groups. It's just been an amazing, amazing tool. And that's how I communicate with all my administrative friends from around the country. There's several Voxer groups that I'm in. Just like I mentioned, Brad Gustafson and Ben Gilpin. I'm in a Voxer group with those two guys, and we talk every single day. And people say, well, can you just call and leave a voicemail? I don't know about you, but I hate checking my voicemails, and I hate leaving a voicemail because you got to listen to that stupid message about leave it after the beep, press 1 if you'd like to hear it. I don't have time for that. I want to get on the app, leave a quick message, and then they can respond back. And the other thing about Voxer, if you have a friend that talks really slow, which clearly wouldn't be my problem because I clearly talk fast, but if you have someone who talks really slow, you can speed it up to 4 times the speed, so you can listen to it in less time.
You can make them sound like chipmunks. That's
exactly.
Great. Yeah, that's
but it's
great.
been good for our teachers too, because that's how they get in touch with us. And so the kids know when they hear that Voxer button is, oh man, they're contacting somebody. We got to be ready. But I've had some students in some classes Vox me from their teachers' phones as well, to say, hey, can you come by and say, hey, I want to show you this? And so I'll come by and check stuff out in classrooms like that.
Okay. What is your all-time favorite educational quote?
Probably the one that I have on my website and on my email signature. And so I have 2 of them. I can't do this one thing. I'm gonna
That's okay.
push your rules. One of them is adults need to have fun, so children will want to grow up, and that's by Erica Barmeister. And then my other one is never doubt that a small group of people can change the world when indeed it's the only one that ever has, and that's by Margaret Mead.
That's great. What advice do you have for working with the student population that you serve?
Love unconditionally, forgive constantly, and every day must be a brand new day with no reminders of the mistakes made the day before.
What piece of advice would you have for working with the educators that you lead?
Honestly, a lot of the same thing I just said for kids. Love unconditionally, forgive daily, but also with my educators, I try to empower them. I get down in the trenches with them, so when I give ideas, they'll know that I'm willing to do it alongside of them. I model for them. I meet with them constantly. I write notes to them. I send emails. I leave sticky notes on their door. Just constantly try to find a way to remind. Teachers are very good about forgetting how great they are.
Right.
And so I feel like it's part of my job to remind them of their awesomeness.
That's great. So what's the best way to connect with you?
Honestly, you can Google my name, and there's about 1,000 ways. You can email me. I may respond. I may lose the email on accident because I get about 1 million a day.
Yeah.
But you can tweet me. I'm really good at responding on Twitter. Pretty quick to the tweet as well. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Google Plus. Just don't really do much on there because that's a weird social media platform. But you can find me anywhere and everywhere just by Googling my name. ToddNesloney.com also has all my information on there as well.
Great. If you were to just offer one final piece of advice, what final piece of advice would you give for a school administrator or somebody who wants to become a school administrator one day?
For me, when I'm looking at hiring people or when I talk to other administrators, I look for risk. I look for ways that you're willing to push yourself outside and try things that either have not been tried before or seem scary. Because if you're willing to take risks, you're willing to do whatever's best for kids, and you're willing to fail but pick yourself back up. And so that would be my advice, that along with the phrase I've said before of ask for forgiveness, don't ask for permission.
That's great. Well, EduLeaders, this has been a great interview today. For the show notes of today's show and other resources, visit educatorslead.com and type the word Todd into the search tool to find his show notes. Todd, thank you for sharing your journey with us today. And that wraps up another episode of Educators Lead. This podcast is brought to you by Mometrics, the #1 test preparation company. Mometrics offers study materials for over 1,800 different exams, including the SAT, ACT, GED, end-of-course exams, state standard exams like the STAR, teacher certification exams, advanced placement, CLEP, ASVAB, GRE, and so many more. Mometrics takes the mountains of information students could be tested over for any given exam and boils it all down to just the fluff-free golden nuggets of information that are most likely to be on the exam. They couple that with some great study tips and test-taking strategies to help students maximize their test scores. With their interactive tutorial videos and a layout that makes lesson planning easy, Mometrics study guides, flashcards, and practice questions are a great fit for individual or classroom use. To learn more about our products and our vault of hundreds of free tutorial videos, please visit educatorslead.com/test prep. That's educatorslead.com/test prep. EduLeaders, thank you for joining us on Educators Lead. Visit us at educatorslead.com for everything we talked about today, free resources, and much, much more.